Welcome to Speaking Volumes, The Point's special 2018 Spring Festival program. Reading makes a full man, said the English philosopher Sir Francis Bacon in the 1960s, and these words still ring true today. What's more enriching than paging through a good book, letting the words transport you to a different time and place, exposing you to new cultures and ideas? While there are plenty of great books out there, which are some of the must-reads for you this year? For the Spring Festival special series, we have invited several guests to share and talk about their favorite books. Each guest will start by reading a few lines before we move into the discussion. So thanks to the Third Space leader Aerospace to provide the site support. Joining me to share their books today, Simon Shieh, director of InkBeat Arts, a community empowering young people through artistic expression and education. Luc Pokorn, a Canadian actor based in Beijing. And Gu Da Bai Hua, our favorite talk show translator. Gentlemen, welcome to this special program. It's great to have you here. And first of all, Happy Chinese Spring Festival.
Yay!
Happy Spring Festival. Happy Spring Festival.
春节快乐怎么说？
春节快乐。
春节快乐。Okay. What do you say in Chinese anyway? Normally, what do you say?
I think we would say Happy Spring Festival. Is that right?
恭贺新春。
恭贺新春，恭贺新春。Anyway, this is the English world. We're focusing on English. So, yeah, as I said, we're going to recommend books. Who would like to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to read from my favorite book, or we can call it a magazine this year, which is issue 3 of the InkBeat Youth Journal. And the InkBeat Youth Journal publishes young writing from China and abroad in Chinese and English. And I'm going to read a piece by a contributor named Tina Tseng.
But first of all, tell us a bit about InkBeat, maybe, exactly what it does and you know, why you think it is important.
Sure. So, so we basically give a platform for young writers and artists to talk about the things that are most important to them through writing and art. And we also go into schools and we do creative writing education and course design to help students really express themselves and then hopefully get published in the journal. And this comes out 3 times a year, and it's in Chinese and English, and we circulate it globally. So,
wow. And the students come from everywhere in the world.
That's right, everywhere in the world, but mostly from China. Mostly from China.
I see.
So the piece I'm going to be reading from today is by a 16-year-old girl named Tina Tseng, and she's in grade 11 at the Western Academy of Beijing. Her bio reads, I'm a Chinese-American junior in high school. I breathe words, love meeting new people, and live life in metaphors. And if I may, I'm just going to read a short excerpt from her story, Without a Trace.
But she will be how old?
So she's 16 years old. 16
years old.
Yeah, so within here is writing from 14 to 19-year-olds.
Okay.
So Tina Tseng is 16. All right, so Without a Trace. 10:40, the clock flashed. I sprint down the corridor. Doors blur past me. I know which one to enter, the very end. 10:41, twist the knob, yank the door open, sweep the cluttered apartment with my eyes. She's in the bathroom. Look for the yellow mug on the kitchen table. 10:42, I surge towards it. Coffee, half full, still warm. Unclench my fingers from around the vial. Uncap. Careful now, don't spill. Every single drop must mix with the murky drink. 10:43, no traces are to be tolerated. The cold, unyielding rule echoes in my head. Mission accomplished. Turning to leave, a photograph captures my eye. It's a young woman, the spitting image of her unborn daughter. Time freezes as I'm hypnotized by robin blue eyes. A white hospital bed speckled with blood. A sick face stretched in a weary smile. This is all for you, my love. You'll be all right. The toilet flushes. My heart sets off in a sprint. The clock now reads 10:45. Shoot. Can't get seen. I dash for the door, tripping over the carpet. I have to get out. Can't get seen. I fly down the hall, jumping back through the portal. I breathe a sigh of relief as I am transported back.
Wow. So breathtaking.
Yeah,
I mean, all
was
these short sentences, all of the actions, and almost every sentence starts with I follow with an action one after another. What is? May I take
Absolutely,
the book in my hand? So, why do you think this was an interesting piece, and why did you choose this one?
So a lot of young people these days are starting to write about technology and the role that technology plays in our lives, and the way technology can solve or maybe exacerbate human problems. And in this particular story, Tina Sang is talking about how technology can potentially help, but also exacerbate the problem whereby we can go back in time and change things from the past to affect the present. So for example, if I go back 10 years and I move one thing a little bit, it will change something today, maybe dramatically. So Tina Sang in this piece kind of explores the implications of what that means for humanity, which I think is really cool.
What do you think of it, Gu Da, when you hear such a theme, such a piece about young people trying to go back in time, change a small thing without leaving a trace, and then, ponder about the consequences?
I think it's really imaginative, and the way she writes is really powerful. I think it starts with very short sentences and with I. And about the idea, this theme, I love science fiction from a very young age, maybe even younger than she is. I thought about these kind of things, the possibility, what will happen if I go back in time and change something in history, maybe from some of my favorite historical stories. Maybe a lot of people talk about that. Can you, like, if you have a time machine, can you go back in time and kill Hitler? Or something like that. Or like a lighter issue is a question is, what are you going to say to your younger self when you're 16? Like this girl's age, what would you say to yourself? So I've been thinking about these kind of questions. But her writing is really vivid, can put you into this situation. It's not about the consequences, it's really about being there and seeing all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If we could just talk about the craft of the writing for a minute, she opens with really strong, short sentences, and that's really what draws the writer in. And that's one of the reasons we chose this piece out of all the other pieces that were submitted for publication.
Because it's powerful. I think it just draws you in, like the energy is like a magnet from the very beginning, the time, and then 1 minute after another, and all the actions packed. I really wonder, I mean, these kids they're writing bilingual, or are they writing in English? What is the main
One of the things that I love about editing this journal is that I get to see writing in English from students whose native language is Chinese.
So in her case, what would be the...
So in her case, her native language is English. And it's still impressive that she can craft a story in her native language. But we're also seeing Chinese students who are writing not in Chinese, but they're choosing to write in English. And their writing is incredible. It's amazing. So we're seeing that a lot of young Chinese writers can really write in English on an international kind of level, which is very impressive.
If you would have the choice to go back in time and change something without a trace, what would be?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think I would have given my dad hair so that he wouldn't have passed on baldness to me. That would have been a great thing to change.
Well, what can we say about that? Luc, what about you? Do you have some secret wish that...
If I could go back in the past? Oh, wow. That's a good question. I think I would...
Have you ever thought about it?
I think about it every single day. No, I'm just kidding. But I think I would probably start acting more seriously earlier. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I always liked acting. I did theater, and since a very young age, I've been watching theater from a very young age. But I never actually. It took me a while to build up the sort of the strength and the vision to sort of believe, okay, this is my path. And so I think if I just listened to my gut feelings way back, that would have helped me.
Really? When did you start acting already?
Well, my first, I remember I did these little mini plays when I was a kid. Like when I was, maybe 6, 7 years old, I was already be participating in these theater projects and stuff like that. And then in high school, I kept it up, and then in university, I kept it up. But university, like my undergraduate degree, wasn't acting. So it was a different focus. And if I could go back, I would probably just, you know, just buckle down and focus on acting a lot earlier, and just get my career started earlier. Yeah.
It's a great thing to change.
Yeah. Thanks.
That.
Probably, if I can go back in time and meet my younger self, I probably would say, like, buy Bitcoin or buy houses in Beijing. Joking aside, seriously, I want to say to my younger self to be more confident, because I made a lot of life-changing decisions people don't understand. For example, I was majoring in traditional Chinese medicine back in days in college. And right now I'm doing some English and the movie, TV show related stuff. And a lot of people don't understand it, and they don't back me up during that time. So I feel very, very less confident at that time. So I would tell myself to be more confident. You're making the right choice. Just go. Just go for it.
Well, if you made that choice, we wouldn't have the Gu Da today.
That's true. That's true.
We wouldn't have all the popular online videos on all the interesting stuff we have been watching. So anyway, I think we can go on if we want, but let's move on to the next piece. Which one would you like to?
I can go. Or,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So this book is called Essentialism. The Pursuit. Actually, I happen to forget the subtitle, but it's, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less is the subtitle. So Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less, written by a certain Greg McEwen. I think that would be the way he pronounces his last name.
Where did you find the book?
The book, where did I find? I found it like a few years ago, but I remember it was back home in Canada where I found it, and then I started reading it, maybe a few pages, and then being the distracted guy that I am, I loved the book, but I didn't finish it. As a matter of fact, I still haven't finished it, but now I have it in ebook format on my Kindle, so it's a lot easier to read. And so basically what the book is about is how to really figure out your path. I guess we're probably seeing a theme in me, like if I could go back, I'd choose my path and all that. This book is all about focusing on what's essential, and it talks about like this philosophy or this mindset of essentialism. How do you think in a way that yields higher results, the highest results, that produces your highest point of contribution to the world? Because we're all meant to sort of do something, we all have talents, but how do we best hone in on that? And especially for people like me who are super distracted, there's a million
Everybody's
things
a little bit more or less.
I know, I guess
in
this day and age with phones and stuff like that, but like for me it's just like I have a million ideas and I believe in my ideas, but the thing is ideas don't really mean much unless you can implement them. And this book really helps with the whole process from figuring out what your path is and then walking that path.
Okay.
Yeah. So I chose a section which is in the introduction, I believe, for the first chapter, and it really helps to sort of demonstrate what he means by the importance of essentialism and that sort of mindset. Okay, so the subtitle of the chapter, I guess, or the sub-chapter heading is The Way of the Non-Essentialist. On a bright winter day in California, I visited my wife, Anna, in the hospital. Even in the hospital, Anna was radiant, but I also knew she was exhausted. It was the day after our precious daughter was born, healthy and happy at 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Yet what should have been one of the happiest, most serene days of my life was actually filled with tension. Even as my beautiful new baby lay in my wife's tired arms, I was on the phone and on email with work, and I was feeling pressure to go to a client meeting. My colleague had written, Friday between 1 and 2 would be a bad time to have a baby because I need you to come at this meeting with X. It was now Friday, and though I was pretty certain, or at least I hoped, the email had been written in jest, I still felt pressure to attend. Instinctively, I knew what to do. It was clearly a time to be there for my wife and newborn child, so when asked whether I planned to attend the meeting, I said with all the conviction I could muster, yes. To my shame, While my wife lay in the hospital with our hours-old baby, I went to the meeting, and afterward my colleague said, "The client will respect you for making the decision to be here." But the look on the client's faces did not evince respect. Instead, they mirrored how I felt. What was I doing here? I had said yes simply to please, and in doing so, I had hurt my family, my integrity, and even the client relationship. As it turned out, exactly nothing came of the client meeting, but even if it had, surely I would have made a fool's bargain. In trying to keep everyone happy, I had sacrificed what mattered most. On reflection, I discovered this important lesson. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. I think that passage really captures the sort of mindset and what he's trying to tell with his book. It's I think it was a powerful sort of passage. And he obviously learned a lot from it, too.
Right, so you want to please everybody, you want to do everything, but in the end, you lose focus of the more important things in life. Simon, what does that piece make you feel?
Well, I think that the writer had to have a lot of courage to tell people that and to share that story, because when I hear that, I also think, like, what is this guy doing? You know, why isn't he with his wife who's having a baby in the hospital? But it takes courage to tell that story, and so, you know, I have respect for that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think what is difficult is sometimes when you hear other people's story, it is easy for you to make a judgment and say, of course, this person, what is he doing? Right. You know, he should stay in the hospital. But very often, when we are faced with this kind of choices, we sometimes are not aware what these choices mean to us, you know, and we make the wrong choice only by looking back, or when you tell it to others, you realize that you prioritize the wrong thing. Gu Da, have you had similar experiences?
Yeah, sometimes you acted on impulse. It's not like meticulous thinking or planning or something. Priority is really important for me, and time management, because I have a lot of things to do going around right now for a long time. And right now I have a son he's marked of terrible 2, so you need a lot of time and energy to be there with him. So what is the priority for me in life? Sometimes, for me, most of the time, it's my son. I have to provide for a family, provide for my son, so I have to do all these kind of different jobs overseas. I have to travel around a lot. So sometimes it's hard with all these distractions. It's hard to find your focus. So I can really relate to the story you just told us, because sometimes it's hard to make the right choice.
Right.
When you are in the situation, sometimes it's a hard decision to make. So prioritize everything is really important, but sometimes it's nearly impossible to do that. When you are in the situation, you're not.
There's so much tension and stress. But at least you went to the hospital, right?
I was there all the time. After the hospital, after my son was born, I cut down all the work for at least 1 month or 2 months.
Right.
Just be there with my family, with my newborn son, with my wife.
Yeah. That's very important, because you knew that instinctively it was important, and he knew instinctively that it was important. But you know, I think there's one thing. What I felt in my case is that I have these ideas, I have these visions. It's one thing to have that, but implementing is a whole other ballgame, you know. And I think that's what this book helps with. I mean, I think it's a good book for ideas people who have like amazing ideas, and they can put out value in the world, and there's so much that they can contribute. For instance, these writers, they have a platform, you know, they can contribute. Well, how can you figure out a way for you to contribute what you have to offer? Yeah. And this book really helps with that. It's definitely changed my perspective, and I haven't even, like I said, I still haven't finished the book, but yeah, it's really helpful.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm going to read this book.
Yeah.
For sure.
Essentialism
by Greg McEwen. Yeah.
Greg McEwen. Okay. Many thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
Finally, Gu Da, your piece.
So my favorite book from last year is authored by Tom Hanks, the famous and almighty Tom Hanks. Yeah. So that's one reason that why I'm recommending this book, because it's his first novel. It's like a collection of short stories, 17 stories. But what's more important for me is perspective, because it's very rare that we can get this opportunity to see things in a master's eyes. Because Tom Hanks is Oscar-winning master of portraying people's life, especially ordinary people's life on the big screen. But this time you got a chance to see through his eyes of people's life on paper in this book. And also there's a nostalgic feeling, vibe to all the stories, because we all know Tom Hanks is obsessed with vintage typewriters. Typewriters, he actually typed out a part of the stories on the typewriters he had. He had like 150 or 160 typewriters in his collection, and typewriters serve as Easter eggs in all the stories. You can find typewriter in all the stories, and sometimes the typewriter is essential to the story, and it symbolizes something from the past, like when you're talking about nostalgia, you cherish something from the past, the good old days. So in this day and age, you can still write or like create stories on a vintage typewriter. That says a lot of things. So it's kind of stubbornness, it's kind of nostalgia. It represented, it got projected in this book, and also you can literally hear his voice. He used words like howdy and yowza in this book. It's like when you're watching a documentary, you heard the voice of Morgan Freeman.
So are you going to try to imitate his voice while you're reading this piece for us?
I did that in my head, but I'm not good, like
Go ahead.
a great actor.
Go ahead.
I'll try one piece from this story.
We'll just pretend that Tom Hanks is reading.
Yeah.
I got a lot of pressure. Instead of trying to impersonate Tom Hanks, I'll try to imitate the character. It's, the piece I'm going to read is one nobody actor, very handsome, but not a lot of brain, not the sharpest tool in the shed. He got his 15 minutes of fame, but it got suddenly taken away from him and from the manager. Okay, I'll try. I'm awake. It's sitting down, Pumpkin. Give me a second. Rory poured himself the last of the hot milk and the final cup of coffee, balancing his cup and saucer as he rolled back on a leather recliner. I am actually reclining now. The press tool is cancelled. Our reign was old school. Press junkies were that corporations organized to sell products. Press tours were what movie stars did to promote their films. Rory spit cafe au lait all over his bare legs and the leather recliner. What? He said. Go online and you see why. I never got a Wi-Fi password. Willa is divorcing the venture capital vulture of hers. Why? He's going to jail. He does something crooked and piss off the feds, not the feds, hookers. In his car on Santa Monica Boulevard, seems he was in possession of something other than his medical marijuana too. Wow, poor Willa. Willa will be fine. We for the studio. Cassandra run past 3. Destiny and Handjob will take a hit at the box office. Shall I call Willa and tell her how sorry I am? You can try, but she and her team are on a plane somewhere over Greenland. She'll hide out at her house ranch in Kansas for a few weeks. She has a ranch in Kansas. She grew up in Salina.
Why do you think this particular paragraph is the most typical, represents what Tom Hanks wants to achieve in this book?
I think there are two reasons. The first reason is among all these 17 short stories, some of them are related to show business in Hollywood, which he is very, very familiar with. He is the authority of this kind of stories. And the second thing is mostly like in dialogue. I think that can give you a feeling of what I just mentioned. You can enjoy the story through his eyes and also through his voice. This story is really about nobody, got fame, got this chance of 15 minutes of fame in Hollywood and got it all taken away.
What's the meaning, or what's the significance of writing about that kind of experience? I mean, most people wouldn't have that kind of experience, right? So what does that tell you?
I think for me it's about fame, about vanity, and about evanescence. Because in Hollywood show business, in this circle, I have met and I have interviewed a lot of Hollywood directors, big names, and the actors and actresses. Sometimes I can relate to this story. I think another reason why I recommend this book is the connection.
Because you see that so often that that these people just go roller coaster.
Yeah. No, I don't see the roller coaster part where they go down, but I see where they are at the center of the spotlight. They're so perfect that the life is the dream of everybody.
But you think you always need to be aware that at the end of the day, when if you don't have the fame, you're just not another ordinary person, or is that the kind of thing?
That's all about the hypocrisy of Hollywood, of show business, of fame, and of vanity. It's so easily, if you are lucky enough, it's so easily acquired, but it can so easily get taken away from you.
Look, be very careful.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about this. I'm about to cry right now after hearing this.
Call Tom Hanks and ask for some
This
advice.
is what I want to ask you, Luke, as an actor. So what do you see that is different from our eyes? Because I know from Tom Hanks and other great actors, they notice something that we cannot, ordinary people cannot notice. For example, people's mannerism, very little tiny details, how they talk, how they walk around in real life. What is it like to be an actor, to actors like to see it?
First of all, I don't want to pretend that I'm, an authority on acting or anything like that. I'm still learning the ropes. There's a long way to go, but I've always liked to people watch, observe people, and what makes people tick, and especially when you're on the subway, that's a classic scenario where you can just watch people, and it's kind of like everyone's like, oh, it's boring, I'm going to be playing on my phone. But for me, it's fun enough just looking around and be like, hey, what's this guy's life like? Oh, what's that girl up to? What's going on in her head? And thinking about trying to attach what you see with their emotional state, how they're thinking, and try to build a picture from that. So I think it's just curiosity. I think that in my case personally, that sort of feeds it. And maybe, wait, what was the question?
I see you are the distracted type.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that answers your question, though.
Actually, that answers
you answered the question.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting way, and I think it's important, right, just to pause for a while and to observe and just to think about the essence of life. At the end of the day, regardless of what you have, fame, money, material wealth, what is the most important things in life? And I think that's really important questions we all need to kind of ask ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we don't really have time for more discussion. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Many thanks to my guests today. Luc Pokorn, a Canadian actor based in Beijing, Gu Da Bai Hua, a talk show translator, and Shieh, director of InkBeat Arts. And that is it for this first episode of our special program celebrating the Chinese New Year that's called Speaking Volumes. My name is Liu Xin. You can follow me on Twitter or Facebook using the handle The Point with Alex. Download the application called CGTN to watch the show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. I'll see you during the second episode of Speaking Volumes. See you then. Great.